I first thought about hope and its relationship to politics 30 years ago because my school teacher, Joe Spence, directed me in a play called The Curate Troy. And the central lines of this play by Seamus Heaney are a moment in which the chorus says, "History says, don't hope on this side of the grave. Then once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme." Hope and history rhyme. Two words which are impossible to rhyme. And yet out of this notion of a miraculous impossibility is a very powerful statement about politics. No accident that Joe Biden is as fond of this as Joe Spence and used it a lot in his presidential campaign. What does this mean for me as somebody who was a working politician? Well, I think of hope in politics in terms of three types of hope. The first type of hope is the type of hope which maybe Seamus Heaney is hinting at. And it's a type of hope on which I cannot comment. It's a sort of miraculous religious hope. A hope in some extraordinary transformation. The kind of hope which I think animated Christian theologians. St. Paul when he talks about faith, hope, and love. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about two other types of hope. A bad type of hope and a good type of hope. Bad type of hope. The bad type of hope in politics is irrational hope. And not just irrational hope which is an alibi for refusal to think, refusal to engage, sometimes even a cloak for other agendas. A type of hope that sweeps away any questioning about a discussion. I mean, I noticed this in Brexit. I noticed on the Brexit side, I noticed it even sometimes on the Remain side. People making very, very hopeful statements. Either on one side, this is all going to be brilliant, or on the other side, hoping for a second referendum, which might never happen. This type of hope, when detached from reality, has a strange relationship to fear. In fact, as the Romans say, hope and fear can be manacled together like a prisoner and an escort. And the reason they're manacled together is that both of them are about the future, not the present. Both of them are unmoored from reality. They float free. A good example of this is the recent situation in Afghanistan. The most extraordinarily hopeful comments about Afghanistan, statements like, I quote from an early Afghan national development strategy, "All Afghans are committed to a gender-sensitive, multi-ethnic, centralized state based on democracy, human rights, and the rule of law," combined with an extreme pessimism. Right? Afghanistan is the existential threat to global security. This drives along an operation that gets ever larger. This type of irrational hope, this type of irrational fear, until you get through, in fact, a hyperinflation of political rhetoric, $130 billion a year being spent, 130,000 troops being deployed, and eventually an explosion of the rhetorical Ponzi scheme, at which point the other negative dimension of irrational hope is revealed, because we then lurch from total overcommitment and overconfidence to complete withdrawal, from surge to total isolation. And the reason that happens is at the core of populism. The core of populism because the politician, unmoored from reality, makes ever more extravagant claims about the world. Those extravagant claims produce failure, but when the failure is impossible to deny any longer, instead of returning to a moderate middle ground, they lurch from one extreme to the other. The type of political hope I want to talk about, therefore, is a third type of political hope. Neither the religious hope, maybe suggested by Heaney, nor the type of irrational hope which is the bedrock of populism, but a hope which is rooted in reality. A hope, yes, which is about an uncertain future, and a desirable uncertain future, because that's the essence of hope. Hope has to be not about certainty. Has to be about something that may not happen. But that is the driving force in our lives. In fact, our very existence as individuals is about hope. Our hope to morally improve ourselves, our hope to be happy, our hope to bring a better life to other people. These are hopes about the future. But when they're rooted in reality, connected to realistic paths, realistic goals, rooted not in the extremes, but in the middle ground, rooted and connected to a project of humility, a project of listening, a project of embracing complexity, embracing difficulty, rather than turning away from it, then I think we have something that can be genuinely transformatory. A situation where we may not be able to do all that we can pretend, we can do much, much more than we fear. And something else very special too. To paraphrase Kierkegaard, there is a connection between the politics of hope and the politics of love. Because without love, we can have no hope, even for ourselves. With love, we can have hope for everyone else. Thank you all very much indeed.